She combined these qualities with warmth, humor, and an unerring ability always to see the best in people.
She was a funny person who always tried to see the good in people. At first it looked like a security check, like the kind they do to protect secrets. But then things got tense. People started to panic. A royal guard gave a command. It changed everything. They opened a space that wasn't meant to be seen, and they found some amazing things that belonged to the late queen. These things were thought to be lost, but they showed up behind closed doors years later. So how did these treasures that were erased by tragedy suddenly show up again? The royal guard made Camilla's grandson open a wardrobe. It was 2026, and a quiet neighborhood in West London was calm. But then a hush fell over the area. There was a house tied to Queen Camilla, and the focus was on her grandson. He was a man who liked his private life and didn't want to be in the public eye, but that was about to change. A routine royal security inspection was. It was going to disrupt his life. Just before dawn, the calm was interrupted by protocol. The inspection was a check to make sure properties connected to the royal family were secure. The royal protection officers and a specialized tactical unit arrived quietly. A sense of tension settled over the estate. This wasn't about a reported crime or a visible threat. It was a precaution. The team moved precisely. Their radios murmured quietly. The tension grew as they checked every room and access point. The protection chief led the team. They seemed to be following a routine, but then they reached the level and found something unusual. A polished walnut-paneled wall that seemed too perfect. The officer stepped closer, noticed fine scratch marks near the edge. Someone had tried to open it. "There are signs," he said quietly. The team, he told them to check it. Before they could act, a voice broke through the stillness. "Stop." Camilla's grandson stood at the end of the hallway looking tense. He said they couldn't open it, that it was private. The protection chief turned slowly, studying him, and saw fear in his eyes. The officer said it was an inspection and that every section had to be cleared. But the young man shook his head. His composure slipped. He moved to stand in front of the cabinet, his voice rising. The officers guided him aside gently but firmly. The team approached the cabinet. The air felt heavy. The lock gave way. The cabinet doors opened slowly. Flashlight beams pierced the darkness and everything changed. Silence. The team saw rows of antique boxes. Each one was carefully. They were crafted with precision. The lids were. Light exploded into color. Diamonds, rubies, and sapphires. The officer's expression hardened as he realized what he was seeing. These weren't valuables. They were documented, catalogued, and declared missing. The young man stood frozen, his face drained of color. The protection chief slowly turned, his thoughts already moving ahead. This was no longer a check. It was something else entirely. And now there was one person who needed to know. King Charles III. The officer sent a message to the palace, and within the hour the call reached King Charles III. He was seated in his study at Buckingham Palace when the phone rang. The calm, his grip tightened around the receiver. The report reached him. He said nothing for a long moment. Then his voice came, low and deliberate, carrying weight. The royal alarm was. The message was sent without hesitation. The officer told him they had discovered something that shouldn't exist. Within the hour, the call reached King Charles III. He listened to the report. He was in his study and the phone rang, dissolving the calm. A soft golden lamp spread light across the desk. The king's grip tightened around the receiver until his knuckles turned white. For a moment he said nothing, then his voice came. "Repeat that," he said. The message didn't change. Royal jewelry, long assumed lost, officially recorded as destroyed, was now found. It was hidden inside a wardrobe, and the name that shocked even the most seasoned courtiers was Camilla's grandson. A tiny crack had just formed in the image of the royal family. Charles slowly lowered the phone, his mind racing. Outside, a rain tapped against the tall windows. The palace felt stifling with unspoken questions. He knew this story well. The 2022 fire that consumed the royal storage vault. Hundreds of priceless items vanished, reduced to ash. "Impossible," he murmured. "This cannot be coincidence." Minutes later, a private meeting was convened. A senior investigator, a trusted security advisor, and a royal legal expert sat in the room. The door, silence fell. "This matter does not leave this room," Charles said firmly. "No press, no speculation, not until we understand what we are dealing with." His gaze sharpened. "I will not allow the monarchy to be shaken without certainty, but I want the truth no matter where it leads." Files were spread out, records opened, names, dates, and access logs. The grandson's connection raised alarms. He had no role, no reason to be near restricted collections, yet the items were linked directly to him. "How?" Charles asked quietly. No answer came. No one could explain. The investigator leaned forward. "Your Majesty, it seems like the items were never inside the vault during the fire. Everything changed." Charles' face got darker. Then they must have been taken out before the fire started, he said slowly. There was silence again. One thing was clear, this was not an accident, it was planned carefully over time. Charles started walking. The weight of what they had found was heavy. Trust, which is very important for the monarchy, was now being questioned. If the items were taken out before the fire, someone must have known. Someone had access, someone did it. Now it seemed like the actions were pointing to someone close. Camilla. He stopped, not because he found an answer, but because he thought of a possibility he did not like. Continue, he said. They reopened the fire investigation. They looked at every detail again. His eyes went to the files. They checked access records, financial records, movements over the 10 years, and everyone connected to the vault. No exceptions. After a pause, his voice got lower. I want to know if there is any link, any at all, to the Queen. The weight of what he said hung in the air. This was not just stolen items. This was about something hidden, something that could change everything. As the meeting ended, Charles stayed, staring out the window at the rain. Outside, the courtyard was blurry. Inside, his thoughts were clear. If the past had been changed on purpose, what else was hidden? Who else was involved? This was not just a discovery. It was the start of something bigger and more dangerous. Stay with us, because the truth about the palace is about to be revealed. How Camilla's loyalty hid a secret. From the beginning of the monarchy, the biggest threats to the crown often came from within. Blood ties and duty have always bound families, making them balance public service with private loyalty. What happens when that loyalty blinds even the most powerful to betrayal? The shocking discovery involving Camilla's grandson and the lost royal jewelry offers a scary example. Queen Camilla has long been admired as a grandmother. She championed her grandson, shielding him from scrutiny. Where others might have faced oversight, he often received special treatment. This appeared at first to be nothing than love for her family, until the rediscovery of the lost treasures revealed a darker side to that protection. Royal commentators now suggest that Camilla's defense may have created a world in which her grandson felt like he was above the law. In a palace where staff and advisors are careful around younger royals, such privilege can cloud judgment. When loyalty to family outweighs loyalty to the crown or country, the effects ripple beyond the palace walls. History offers examples. Royal households are full of tales of relatives whose influence surpassed their roles, creating blind spots. This context sheds light on how the lost jewelry could remain hidden for long. Investigators now believe the cabinet where the pieces were found was no accident. It was deliberately placed in an area tied to the grandson's quarters, rarely inspected, protected by both protocol and familial trust. Sources close to the inquiry report that Camilla's grandson enjoyed relaxed supervision over parts of the residence. This privilege, intended as a gesture of trust, may have inadvertently created the concealment. Imagine a palace where tradition forbids questioning private areas and where a matriarch will defend her grandson's privacy at all costs. Investigators theorized that the grandson, fully aware of this shield, used it to keep the jewelry hidden. Whether out of ignorance, entitlement, or a sophisticated understanding of palace politics, the implications are enormous.